Hey everybody, this is Cameron with Body Smart, and we're here at the Bike Shop to interview Matt and find out a little bit more about a proper bike fit. So Matt, how long have you been doing bike fittings?
About 20 years.
20 years, so at least a little bit of experience with it, huh?
Just a little bit.
Okay, awesome. And so what would you say are some of the most important features or factors in why you should get a bike fit and the bike fit itself?
Well, Cameron, the number one reason that people that own bikes stop riding them is because of discomfort.
Okay.
And so for 41 years that we've been in business, starting as a little kid and now to a really old man that I am, people have always said, you know, biking is fun, but it kills my crotch, my butt, my back, my hands, my feet. We hear all of that.
Yeah. So
you got to get fit on a bike so all that goes away.
So you're saying biking really should be comfortable?
Yes.
It shouldn't be an uncomfortable experience.
Right.
So if it is uncomfortable, there's something wrong.
Correct.
Which most likely can be adjusted to alleviate that?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So that's great news for a lot of those that want to bike but have kind of had those feelings in the past, right?
Right.
All right.
And I would say the majority of people that do bike, even that have been biking for years and are not fit properly, are floored when they finally get set up right on the bike.
Right. Yeah, they don't realize that they could be that comfortable. They've just suffered for years.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm probably part of that category.
Yeah.
But awesome. Okay. Let's see. So what are some of the main things that you look at during a bike fit?
Well, to start off, we first talk with anybody that's interested in being better fit to their bike by finding out what they want to do, what their goals are, what their aspirations are. If they want to, because you have all types. You have people that just don't ride a lot or are trying to ride and are uncomfortable. And then you have people that have done it for a long time and are trying to improve their time on a bike.
Right.
Either, they're competitive and want to go faster or longer, and proper bike fit can achieve those.
Okay.
Both of them. You can go longer and faster if you're set up properly.
Right. Make your ride more enjoyable too, right? If you're covering more ground and seeing more and it's easier to do. Yeah.
I would say in large part it's about being comfy on the bike, but there's also the being efficient.
Yeah.
Powering the bike is a mechanical, machine that moves us, and we're powering it. And if you're set up properly, you'll do it more effectively.
Right. Well, and as a physical therapist, I would say that's generally true in most of life, that the more efficient we are, the more comfortable we typically are too. So same applies to running or other things. Like the more efficient we are, we generally get less wear and tear, or more comfortable, we have fewer injuries. So efficiency is an important part of life in general. All right, perfect. Now let's get into the bike fit itself. So here we are with Matt and Mark, and we're gonna go into the bike fit and see exactly how that's done and how Matt can make sure that Mark's bike is perfectly fit to him so that he gets the most out of every ride. Here we go.
Awesome. So Mark, let's have you go ahead and hop up on the bike.
All right.
I'm gonna grab some important tools.
And I forgot to mention, we're down here in the lab down here at the bike shop that has just awesome stuff, as you can see. Tons of spin bikes and other gear and stuff so that you can train to get
This is where we train people, mostly in the winter, because a lot of people don't want to train indoors in the summer, but it's where we do fits all day, every day.
Yep.
So Mark's our guinea pig here to get fit properly on his bike. So Mark, to start, I want you to just find the gear that you like, a resistance, in other words, that you can just pedal comfortably, and just, put your hands right up in the hoods just like that, and just pedal for a while. We're going to see how you naturally pedal. A little bit faster cadence. And even a little bit faster. And as I notice some things right off the bat, Mark, I will make some adjustments just because you're new to this, right? So for example, a number one thing that we see to beginner cyclists is how Mark's got his feet on the pedals. They're about right in the middle of his arch toward the back of the arch, where in reality, so this is back to that maybe not discomfort but efficiency. To power the bike effectively and efficiently, the forefoot should be right over the pedal spindle. So he's quite a bit back. So I'm going to go ahead and move you, Kate. Go ahead and stop. And I'm going to put your feet on the pedal where I want them to be, where you're going to drive the most power. I went maybe a little far back, Mark. Yeah, about like that. Right there. And find that same spot on that right with your right foot too, okay? So a little more forward. Maybe go off of this as a reference here. There's the pedal right there. Yeah, go ahead. Pedal again. Feel a little bit different probably.
Yeah, but better.
Yeah, good. Like I said, that's a common error in, especially when somebody doesn't use clipless pedals, but I think Mark's going to go into clipless pedals soon, right?
Yeah. Will you talk to that? Like what the benefits of clipless pedals are versus...
Well, clipless pedals make a huge difference in powering the bike. If you can be clipped in, you can pull up, push across the top, pull across the bottom, and not just slap at the pedals left, right, left, right, left, right, essentially just using your outer quads. You go and you're clipped in and you're attached to the pedal and you use leg bicep, hamstrings, you use hip flexors, you engage so many more muscles, so more power, better efficiency on long rides because you're using more muscle groups in your leg, you're not just depleting your outer quads and then I'm done. Those are the main benefits. And then the stiffness of a cycling shoe transfers more of your leg power into that pedal instead of like you have on just a comfy pair of like running shoes that are going to be soft and let a lot of that energy go to the ground. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've heard from some people with the clipless pedals is that they're just afraid that they're going to fall out, or when they stop, they crash.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people?
I say to them, there's a little bit of a learning curve. It is really second nature. The clipping in is you just catch the front of the cleat that's bolted to the bottom of your shoe into the clipless pedal and pedal, and it will snap in, kind of like a ski binding. But when you go to get out, different from a ski binding, it's very easy to get out, and you just rotate your foot. So you rotate your heel outward on either foot that you're trying to get out, and it comes out easily. And but again, the benefits far outweigh the fear of, I might not be able to get out. It's easy to get out, and if with new customers that are, or customers that are new to clipless pedals, I should say, I tell them, go to a parking lot at a school, not when school is starting or getting out, when it's empty. Go to a big parking lot and, clip in, clip out, practice powering off, clip in and push off and pedal, and then whatever, 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet across the parking lot, practice coming to a stop and turning that hill and clipping out. And if they'll do that for 15 to 20 minutes is all, by the end of that, they are like, oh, this is really easy. It becomes second nature, of course, after you've done it a few times. But
yeah, well, I'm sure it's nice too because then like this, you don't have to every time you're putting your feet back in the pedals, you don't have to redo it.
Exactly.
It's just
find the right spot. You will be set properly, exactly. For again, power efficiency and being able to use most of your leg muscles instead of just one group of muscles.
Perfect.
Yeah, so go ahead and pedal again, Mark, and we'll have you. So once we have their feet, in a platform type scenario where the customer is using flats, once we have that addressed and have them putting their feet on the pedals in the right spot, we're going to start right off with checking out saddle height and the fore and aft of the saddle. The reason we want him to pedal for a minute and kind of settle in is we don't want him doing anything that he might not do normally just because he's being watched.
Absolutely.
And that's the other reason to have him pedal fast. So a little bit faster, Mark. Okay, that's good. You can slow down. You're being really consistent with how you hold your feet. And so we want to replicate that and put you exactly in line for the furthest distance away from the saddle with this left foot that I'm doing right now. And at the same angle, so keep that foot forward right there. It's a little tricky to do, you got it. And hold that spot while I measure what kind of extension this leg's getting. To do it properly, we want to be right over the condyle, which kind of dissects the side of the knee there, so we're right in the middle. Feel for your greater trochanter, and we want to be following, in other words, the femur down and going right across your ankle, in other words, following the tibia. So we want to be properly, measuring you, not just haphazardly going, this looks like the kind of extension you're getting. And I've got the goniometer proper right there, and it's about 145, as you can see. 145 is an okay saddle height. We want somewhere in between 145 and 155. 145 being about as low as you can go before you start to pull on these, 145 being about as low as you can go before you start putting a lot of pressure on the patella, having the knee too bent. And then 155 being about as extended as you ever want to go before we start pulling on those tendons. So we don't want people having knee pain, patellar pain, or tendonitis going on behind the knee from too high or too low. But that is what we see all the time. So people come in and are like, oh yeah, it hurts my knees to go up hills. Well, the hill part is the extreme load on the bike, right? You got to pedal harder. And when your knees are too bent, you're loading up your kneecaps like that. So 145 is a little bit low, but before we just raise up your saddle, we're going to see where you are fore and aft. So bring your foot right there. Push back on your right foot just a little bit, and it just makes it easier to hold this spot once we find it. So right there where the cranks are level, and then need your heel to come up a little bit, Mark. Cranks come up just a little bit. Right there. So hold that spot. And it's interesting, Cameron, you can see in the mirror how his shoe is kind of bending around the pedal.
Right.
Which is part of the inefficiencies of a tennis shoe or a running shoe, a sport shoe,
Absolutely.
on some flat pedals. We go off of the tibial tuberosity right below the kneecap with a good thumb bob and see where you are lined up in respect to the pedal. And we're actually behind the pedal spindle, and I don't know if you can see with the Cameron, but down here I'm looking in the mirror, and he's plumbed behind it. So we want him actually to be forward. We want it to come and be right over or slightly in front of the pedal spindle right there. So we're going to raise you up a little bit with the saddle and move you forward a little bit. It's interesting for how tall you are. I'm guessing this is a 58. It doesn't look like a 60. I don't see any size sticker or anything on it. How tall are you? 6'2"?
About 6'1".
6'1". So, and that's why I was guessing that you're taller than I am at any rate. And to need to be quite a bit more forward is very similar to me. I have to be, for my height, and I have long legs, 35 3/4 inch inseam. That's long legs for my overall height. And I'm not like I'm short, but it's still, and I have to be so far forward, which just would indicate or would suggest that my femurs are short with respect to my tibias. So I've got a longer lower leg. Make sure you're finding that same spot on the saddle and the same spot on the pedals. So it looks like, Mark, you need to go forward with your feet on the pedals a little bit. Looking good. Maybe a little more forward with the left side. Yeah. Looking good. So go ahead and pedal fast again for a little bit, maybe 30 seconds of it. And this helps you to settle back in. And you were doing the same thing as before, which means it's not in error that we're putting your foot at this angle, because when you're pedaling, you have about right there, angle of your feet in line with the frame, so you're at that farthest distance. Okay, hold that spot there, perfect. Go up just a little. Okay, hold that spot and let's measure that. So I'm now 153, probably went well, for sure I went too far. It's not a problem, right? For sure. Okay, go ahead and stand. I went a little extra because of us going forward. When you move the saddle forward, you essentially lower the saddle height, because you're shortening the distance between where your sit bones are sitting on the saddle and the crank, where your feet are touching the pedals. So, and as you go back, conversely, you're extending your legs and then making your saddle height longer, even though you didn't raise the saddle, the seat post. So go ahead and pedal again. Right over, and on the money.
Perfect.
So that looks good. Now, before you move anything, let's double check this. Right there. Go up just a little. Hold that spot. You really are getting really good. Mark, maybe you were meant to go into acting. And we're almost just exactly over, well, we are exactly over the pedal spindle. So that's great, which we had to move almost all the way forward on your saddle rest. Now from there, we go great. Hey, you're positioned saddle height, 4.5 properly on the bike for power, for efficiency, and for injury prevention too. You're pedaling with where he wanted to pedal at the first, back here in the middle of his arch, or more towards the hill. That could hurt. Longer rides, I mean, it's not gonna, you don't have the support that you get out of the ball of your foot, your forefoot. Your hips are stable, you're not inefficient in any way with the lower half of your body. Now we want to look at your reach and how well you're fit to the bike pedal. So go ahead and put the notch of your hands right back into it, yep, right in the hoods there, and go ahead and pedal again. Now, just as a snapshot, Mark looks really good. His torso angle is not bad at all. I mean, it's pretty average for more of a comfort setup. Mark, I want you to, so you have your hands like this, and I don't want you to bend outward, but I want you to bend downward. Yeah, now not so much though. Yep, right there, slight bend. And why I had him do that, Cameron, is because a lot of people do what he was doing just a second ago. Lock your arms back out like you were, and it pushes your back up a little, but it ends up loading our wrist joint, the elbow joint most definitely, and even the shoulder joint, because people do that, they lock it out because it lets their muscles relax. And you saw what happened when he did the bend down. You can see the triceps engage. He's got some good arms. If you're going to be a good cyclist, you got to get rid of those arms. they're just extra weight and wind resistance. But that allows all the muscles in the arm to support his torso, and they can get strong and get used to that position, instead of the joints taking every bump in the road. And that's why a lot of people complain that, my elbows hurt when I ride, or my shoulders hurt when I ride. Yeah. And they're not saying my shoulder muscles hurt when I ride, they're saying in my shoulder it hurts, or in my elbow. We know there's not a whole whole lot of elbow muscle going on. That's your elbow joint. And so that's the proper, just a slight bend, so your arms are taking that. You know, I always say this to people, but you notice that, like even the Tour de France racers, there may be negative 2% body fat of their upper body.
Right.
They have nothing there, but they all have pretty pronounced triceps because it's a lot of that. That's the shock absorber for the upper body for a roadside race. So that's good to have that bend. And looking at torso angle, so what and it's actually, you look great, like I said. Somebody that wants to be more aerodynamic, right, and more aggressively positioned on the bike for speed is going to get the torso angle down like that more, which is why you can go down to your drops. So move your hands down there, and it gets you lower yet and pushing less of a window of air. So you're going to be faster in the wind and more aerodynamic. You actually, when you're in the drops, have more stability on the bike because you lower your center of gravity, and so your wheels are sticking to the road better than when we are, conversely, all the way go right up here to the uprights and push yourself back. You know, a lot of people will do this to stretch out and let their neck relax a little bit, and that's great, but the bike is much more unstable. It's going to be more squirrely. You don't find too many people in this position going 55, 60 miles an hour down a long, steep hill. The bike would be really unstable. So, but we teach people in the fit, part of it is this transitioning between the uprights, the hoods. Go back to the hoods and look at his back and the difference it makes when we push you back to the corner. I mean, it can bring your back up so much more to be comfortable on longer rides, but yet you're still in a good spot for if you quickly have to get to the brakes. Well, I was going to say pushing up into the hoods and tapping your brakes, you know, dog runs out, whatever, car is
cutting you
off. So we teach, learn to use the different positions of the handlebar. You have a lot. Sometimes people want us to adjust the bar or stem upward or downward or in or out a little, which you could do with angles and short, you know, different stems, shorter, longer, all that, different angled stems. But it's like, okay, what you're really wanting to achieve is what we just achieved, moving from right in the hood to back a little bit. And going down into your drops is a way to get more aggressive and be more of a, you know, aerodynamic position that's more competitive. But overall, when we're fitting, we have you up here in your base, right in the hood, and you look positioned very well for this type of a bike and for what you've said you wanted to do, which is, you know, more traditional road racing type bike riding. You know, let's pretend that Mark is a very overweight, old guy like myself and wants to be more comfy on the bike. He has this nice, you know, racing road bike that says, hey, this is not comfy for me to ride. The typical complaints we get in this scenario is they're like my shoulder, my back, my neck, because they're too extended and too much pressure on their hands. From there, what we would do, and in lieu of actually doing the change, I'll explain it, right? We would get a stem, and I'll use this one as an example. We would get a stem that goes, and this is probably the exact stem that he has. Looks very similar. This one might be 5 millimeters longer or so. But we'd get a stem that when it's mounted there would be up and shorter and bringing them back. So this position where his hands are would come up and back, and that makes a big difference. I mean, go ahead and put your hands on my fist, like that was the bar, and now look at your back position in the mirror. I mean, you are up quite a bit more, and it's going to relieve a lot of pressure off of your shoulders. You're not going to have to crane your neck so much to see down the road. You're going to be more in that position to see down the road and be comfy. So that's what we do in that scenario. Shorter and higher, making them have less pressure on their hands, less pressure, you know, leaning.
Right.
It's more sitting on your sit bones instead of over.
So what do you recommend to the rider that wants to stay competitive and really ride hard and keep up his speed, but that is experiencing some neck and shoulder pain?
Number one thing would be improving their hamstring flexibility.
Okay.
Working on their legs and getting flexible. I think that's why a lot of professional cyclists do a lot of yoga, is they work on their flexibility so they can actually stay planted on their sit bones. So as far as their pelvis goes, they are planted right for comfort, but yet they can lean and be very aggressive in their handlebar position without it rocking their pelvis forward, right?
You're right.
So their hamstrings are flexible enough that they can be down in that position and feel comfortable, and it's not pulling on them, right? And their sit bones can stay placed. And then core strength so they can be in that lower position, and it's not such a burden on their core and their neck and their shoulders.
Same holds true then for low back pain. So I've had several patients complain of low back pain as well with cycling. And
it's amazing how many times we've seen over the years. I mean, we've now done thousands and thousands of fits. That's a lot. We've seen a lot of people with lower back pain. It's amazing to see how lower back pain can be simply from the first basics of their saddle height and the fore and after their saddle. A lot of people are overextended, or they are way too far back behind the pedal spindle, so leverage is poor, and yet they're leaning over and overextended this way. So as they try to climb, a 5.5 mile climb like Trapper's Loop, they're really over involving their lower back.
And so I have a friend who just got into road cycling, and for some reason he decided on mountain bike shoes and mountain bike clip-ins for his original road bike. I guess speak to.
Well, we see that. I would say most of the time people that want to do mountain shoes and pedals on their road bike usually have an ulterior motive, like I do spin classes at the club and they have the bikes that use these cleats and pedals and these shoes, and so it's easier, and or they just don't want to buy another pair of shoes and pedals. Hey, I already have these from a mountain bike, now I'm going to use them on my road bike. But it is certainly, in my mind, not the proper way to go about it. A road pedal is a much bigger platform. We're talking a road pedal like this versus a mountain pedal that's like this. The cleat on a mountain pedal is like this. The road cleat is like this. So a lot more support, a lot more stability for stomping on the pedals. Mountain biking has so many ups and downs and technical sections and so much variation in the ride itself, because the terrain is always varying. Slope trail, off camber trail, rocks in the trail, and the road for the most part is smooth. Whether you're going up or down, the incline may change, but your road conditions are the same. And so you are able to better focus on driving that power. That's why you can typically maintain more power longer on the road, because you don't have these variations. But you need that support for a long road ride. You need that bigger platform. Most road shoes, as you start from a basic $80 shoe and go up, are going to get lighter and stiffer. So the $200 and up shoes are all going to be a full carbon fiber sole, which is again giving you more performance, higher power transfer because of that stiffness of the shoe. The lighter weight is nice too, because it's rotational weight. It's weight you're turning. You're moving your legs, and so you're turning that weight. Just like wheels and tires are a very important part of the bike to look at if you want to be competitive and say, hey, how can it go faster? Lighter wheels, lighter tires. You're turning that weight. Whereas something that's static, like a stem, like we're talking about, doesn't do anything except attach the handlebar to the bike. It doesn't rotate, it doesn't turn, it's static weight. And if you get a slightly lighter stem on your bike, you won't notice a thing. But if you get slightly lighter wheels, you will. So lighter shoes, you will notice. Big, bulky, heavier shoes, cheaper shoes are going, you're turning more weight. So some things to consider with getting shoes.
So awesome, Matt. Thanks so much for showing us more about the bike fit and why that's so important. So a couple follow-up questions with that then are, what's kind of the interval then on how often you should get a bike fit?
Well, a bike fit is not a one and done thing, especially for somebody that's like Mark that we just fit, that's new into the sport. He may progress in his competitiveness. He might want to get a little more aerodynamic and be a little faster on the bike, which would require some adjustments to get a little more aerodynamic and faster on the bike.
Okay.
We have clients that as they age, You know,
Right.
They come
Right.
in and they're like, I just can't have the same position that I used to have. It's harder to go as long or feel as good on my rides, and so we will adjust them a little more up and a little more back as time requires, and so I guess it's more so the interval would be according to the need of the cyclist.
Okay.
You know, of course, if somebody has something that's more body changing, you know, you see people break a foot and then their foot does not behave as it used to.
Sure,
and so
sure.
you may have to make an adaptation with that in their saddle height or their cleat placement on their shoes if they do clipless pedals. There's stuff like that, you know, but as far as maintaining your bike though,
Right.
we tell people that ought to be done all the time because proper bike function is essential. You can be fit well on the bike, but if your bike isn't working well,
Right.
then you may be adapting your perfect fit to the bike in order to power the bike, in order to overcome the extra resistance from poorly adjusted hub bearings and poorly aligned wheels and
Right.
you know, on how the bike handles and all that.
Right. Do you find that it's kind of that a stitch in time saves nine principle too?
for sure.
That if you get it adjusted early, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and money and frustration.
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that a lot of cyclist customers don't realize is if they will at least annually, you know, every year get their bike tuned for the season, their parts on their bike will last a lot longer.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a little bit of maintenance fees goes to making the parts last longer and not having to have as expensive repairs.
Thanks so much then, Matt, for
Thank
everything.
you.
Appreciate it. So this is the place to come, the Bike Shop. They've got the lab down here where they can make sure that you have a perfect bike fit. They can also tune up your bike anytime you need to so that you can make sure you're getting the most out of every ride, that every ride's comfortable, healthy, and fun. You can improve your performance and speed, as well as make sure that you're as fit and healthy as possible on every ride. So if you've got any questions, make sure to hit these guys up here at the Bike Shop in South Ogden, and we can make sure that everything's good for every ride you take.
Thank you.
Yep.